Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the hidden engine of the AI revolution. And you might be surprised to hear it's not silicon or some fancy new software. Nope, it's a single, powerful element, uranium. And it's kickstarting a whole new chapter for nuclear energy.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The story starts with something that honestly sounds like it's from a sci-fi movie. Microsoft, the software company, is getting into the nuclear power business. Now, this isn't just some quirky side project. This is a massive flare going up, signaling a huge crisis brewing just beneath the surface.
So you have to ask, right? Why on earth is one of the biggest software companies on the planet suddenly becoming a power utility? And that single question, it pulls back the curtain on a massive bottleneck that's hiding right behind all the AI hype. It shows us the real, physical cost of our digital future. To really get what Microsoft is doing, we first have to wrap our heads around the absolutely staggering amount of energy that AI consumes. And I've got to tell you, the numbers are almost hard to believe. According to McKinsey, we're talking about a $7 trillion price tag. Now, that's not for the AI itself. That's just for the data centers and all the infrastructure needed to run the AI. To put that in perspective, that's about a fifth of America's total capital spending across every single industry. And all that cash, it's just to feed a monstrous appetite for energy. I mean, just to take one company, OpenAI. They're projected to need the energy equivalent of 26 nuclear power plants just to run their software. Think about that for a second. That's a single company. Okay, so if we zoom out from just OpenAI and look at the entire AI industry, the demand is projected to hit 156 gigawatts by 2030. Now, since 1 gigawatt is roughly what you get from one nuclear plant, we are literally talking about having to build an entirely new power grid just for AI. And this is where the real risk, the scary part, comes in. We could spend trillions of dollars creating the most advanced computer chips the world has ever seen, only for them to become completely worthless hunks of silicon because there's nowhere to plug them in. That, my friends, is the textbook definition of stranded capital. So the obvious question, right, is, hey, why don't we just build a ton more solar panels and wind turbines? Well, the answer gets to something really fundamental about how electricity works. See, not all power is created equal. We have to talk about something called baseload power. Think of it like this. An AI data center is always on. It never, ever sleeps. It's crunching data 24/7, 365 days a year. It needs a constant, rock-solid, uninterrupted river of massive amounts of electricity. And that nonstop, super reliable power, that's what engineers call baseload. And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the problem. It's a total mismatch. AI servers need that consistent 24/7 baseload power we just talked about. But renewables like solar and wind, they provide what's called intermittent power. They're amazing, they're crucial, but they only work when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. You just can't run a revolution on a maybe.
So what you have is this physical problem, the need for a very specific kind of power, and it's setting up a classic economic train wreck. We're on a collision course between just insane levels of demand and an incredibly limited supply.
Look, this is Econ 101, right? AI is creating this gigantic, non-negotiable demand for one very specific product, 24/7 baseload electricity. But the supply of that product is critically low. And you know exactly what happens when demand goes through the roof and supply stays flat. The price has only one direction to go, straight up.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with Microsoft's wild move. It points to the one solution that is perfectly built for this baseload problem: nuclear power. But, and this is really key, we're not just talking about the giant, old-school plants you're probably picturing. The real game changer could be something called the SMR Revolution, or small modular reactors. Yeah, so for these big tech companies, nuclear just checks all the right boxes. It's totally reliable, 24/7 baseload power, and it's carbon-free. But the new twist is these small modular reactors, or SMRs. The idea is that these are smaller, almost factory-built reactors that can be put together more quickly and safely, maybe even right next to the data center they're powering. It's a really pragmatic solution, even if it is a bit controversial. But, and this is a huge but, you can't just go on Amazon and order a nuclear plant. The old way of building these things is painfully slow and costs a fortune. We're talking a decade, maybe more, from the first piece of paper to flipping the switch. And this is exactly the problem that these new SMRs are designed to solve.
Okay, so this incredibly long timeline, it exposes any money you put into this space to a massive risk. It's called legislative risk. Basically, it's the danger that a new law gets passed or the political mood just shifts and your decade-long, multi-billion-dollar project gets shut down overnight. They also call it stroke of a pen risk because one signature can literally wipe your entire investment off the map. So if you're an investor looking at all this, it creates this fascinating, incredibly high-stakes situation. It really is a classic showdown between huge, world-changing promise and just monumental risk. So here's how the dilemma breaks down. On one side, you've got this undeniable, multi-decade structural demand for power from AI. And if you buy into that future, then the fuel for all these new reactors, uranium, starts to look like an incredibly valuable commodity. But on the other side, you're up against these enormous risks that are completely out of your control, shifting politics, those decade-long timelines, and what the public thinks about nuclear power.
So you can see this whole thing is way bigger than just an investment idea. It's really a fundamental question about whether our physical world can actually keep up with our digital dreams.
And the answer to that question isn't just going to shape energy markets, it's going to set the pace of human progress for the next generation. I mean, the software of tomorrow is being written right now. The only real question is, will we have enough power to actually turn it on?